So, may I? It's already turned
Good morning. Thank you for that. Isn't our choir wonderful? I'm going to keep saying that because I just think they're amazing. Well, welcome everybody. Welcome to Emerson Unitarian Universalist Congregation. My name is Reverend Deborah Bennett, and it is my delight to be the called and installed minister. For those of you that might be guests and wondering what is going on, we have a tradition in Unitarian Universalist congregations that after a minister comes, usually within that first year, there's a formal installation ceremony and party. And thank you, COVID. I've been here 3 years, but we just got to do that yesterday, so it was a beautiful time. So for those of you that decided to sleep in, my beloveds out there in Zoom land, I love you, and there are seats available in the sanctuary. We also will be doing our family Emerson members photo afterwards, so I will not be offended if you listen on your drive with your jammies on and get here for the photo. You don't want to miss that. Well, welcome. Welcome to a Unitarian Universalist congregation. We hold our worship as a time to take a pause in life. You know, life can be so busy and there's so much to do, and it's so important to take moments to just take a breath together. Hopefully get a little inspired together and recharge together and rejuvenate it so that we can go back out into the world and do the good work that we are called to do. Today we begin our new monthly theme. We have monthly themes here, and I'll give you one guess as to what it was based on our song. Embracing beauty, yeah. If you take a peek in your orders of service, there's a nice little postcard. We put these out each month so that you could stick these on your refrigerator and get a little inspiration about our monthly theme. I want to say a special welcome to those of you who are new. I know we have a few guests here today. I'm not going to ask you to stand up and introduce yourself, but I do hope that when you join us for coffee hour afterwards, you do introduce yourself to some folks, and our folks will find you and introduce themselves to you too. So special welcome to you, and welcome to anybody online joining us for the first time as well. Yesterday was indeed amazing, and I just want to say to all of you, thank you from the bottom of my heart. It was a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful service and beautiful music. Thank you, Kathy and Bruce, and everybody who put such incredible work in the decorations and all the little parts of the service. Our speakers were so amazing, too. I think something about yesterday I especially loved was having a variety of Unitarian Universalist ministers here. So we can really feel that we're not just an isolated little congregation of folks. You know, we may be small in numbers in our own individual congregation, but we really are connected to this wider Unitarian Universalist faith. And I hope that's inspiring to all of you. I have to say some happy birthdays this morning. First, happy birthday, Emerson. Today is officially our Founders Day. Somewhere around 39 years ago, a bunch of people sat around and decided to give this thing an experiment. Thank you, Ed Miller, over there. And I also, on a personal note, want to say happy 29th birthday to my daughter. Today is her actual birthday. Well, today, 3 hours from now, she made her appearance on the planet. So happy birthday, May Day baby, and to all May Day babies. May is a beautiful month to talk about beauty, isn't it? I love the beautiful surprises that pop up each day in my garden or in the woods, right? My blueberry patch is looking better every year, and there was these raspberries that all of a sudden just like started popping up in the corner of the lot that we didn't even plant, and I love when that happens. Isn't that exciting? So we'll have some raspberry pies. And today we're going to talk about a man for whom nature was seen as the purest sign of divinity and who happens to be our namesake, Ralph Waldo Emerson. But let's begin our service by raising our voices and give you a chance to sing. Please rise in body or spirit. Our opening hymn is going to be from the Gray Hymnal. It is number 368. As you are able, please rise and let's sing out. Now let us sing.
Boy, I got excited on that singing business. Well, good morning. My name is Ed Kosper, and I am a member and serving member of the Ministry Associates here at Emerson. Each Sunday, we pause to light a candle of acknowledgement and remembrance for the Cherokee and Muskogee nations of people. These are the peoples who lived on this land before us, and we acknowledge their continual spiritual presence here. May this candle humbly remind us of our interconnection and the impact of our collective actions. May there be healing in all nations of people. Each Sunday, we also light a chalice. Its light is the symbol of the impact of our collective actions. I take that back, I skipped a line. May this candle, each Sunday, we also light our chalice. Its light is the symbol of Unitarian Universalism and a reminder of our commitment to be a beacon of love and hope in the world. Today's chalice lighting words are, "We are Unitarian Universalist," by John M. Higgins. Welcome to this place. This is a home where no revealed truths are promoted and no scripture or human being accepted as infallible. This is a place for searching for truth. But we are believers. We believe in intellectual freedom. We believe in justice. We believe in compassion and concern for each other and the whole world. We believe in commitment to those ideals which make us caring and active in the struggles for human dignity. We are Unitarian Universalist. Now, in the spirit of the beloved community, let's greet and welcome each other to worship as we share our congregational affirmation. We need not think alike to love alike.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Melanie LeMay, and I serve as a member of the Emerson Pastoral Care Team. At this time in our service, we pause to reflect on and share the joys and sorrows and concerns in our lives, and we light candles of our shared care. We begin by lighting our vigil bowl. Its light represents the light of hope for the peaceful resolution of all conflicts on our planet, holding a special light out to our Ukrainian and Russian brothers and sisters. I invite you now to take a deep breath as you enter this time of reflection. Notice what is on your own heart today. Are there joys enlivening your spirit? Perhaps there are sorrows or concerns you carry with you today. Let this be a time to give them space. Hold them with gentleness and compassion. Take in another deep breath and out. As Reverend Deborah lights our candles of care. Allow yourself to receive these joys from around our community. This is from Susan Allman. Susan says, with deep gratitude, I learned a lot at Emerson's 4 sessions of Let's Look at Our Hard History. Thank you for your efforts for this successful series. Ed Kosper, Ann Mason, Mark Cobb, Claude Fravian, Patricia Johnson, Diane Kisser, Ray Gershon, Peggy Gastrite, Star Story, Ginger White, Judy Griffin, and Reverend Deborah. With an open heart, hold these sorrows and concerns. This is from Karen Abel. Karen lost her father and best friend on Wednesday morning. She and Todd, his son, were at his side. Now we know there may be joys and sorrows that are unspoken. Please feel free to say out loud or type into the chat the name of someone you hold in your heart today. Bonnie. Diane. Now let us sit in silence for a moment, allowing ourselves to feel part of this community of care. Let's send our heartfelt, caring intentions to all beings everywhere and to ourselves by offering the Buddhist prayer of loving kindness. Please repeat these words after me. May we all be filled with loving kindness. May we all be filled with loving kindness. May we all be free from harm and suffering. May we all be well in body, heart, and mind. May we all be at peace. Blessed be.
Well, I have a story for all ages. Would the young and the young at heart like to join me? Hello. Welcome. Well, today I want to talk a little bit about what happened last night. It was mentioned by Reverend Heather that you were just giddy with glee when you went to Ralph Waldo Emerson's, was it his grave? Yeah. Well, when I was in Concord 5 years ago, Concord, Massachusetts, I was giddy with glee just at the whole thing of Concord because there are so many famous youths and youths. And one of the books that I bought when I was there is called Mr. Emerson's Cook. Mr. Emerson's Cook. I'd like to tell you about her this morning. On the day that Annie Burns arrived in the port of Boston from Ireland, she sat right down at the dock and started looking for a job. Ooh, here's one. Wanted. An extraordinary cook needed in the town of Concord, Massachusetts. Acclaimed poet and philosopher has stopped eating due to an overactive imagination and the medicine Mother Nature? Desperate. Send all inquiries to Mrs. Ralph Waldo Emerson, Cambridge Turnpike, Concord, Massachusetts. Well, there wasn't much food to cook for in my town of Balcou, and he wrote to Mrs. Emerson, but I have a talent for making what is there taste very, very good. So soon Annie Burns was on her way to Concord to talk to Mrs. Emerson. When she arrived at the Emerson home, Annie walked into the back area of the house where she encountered a small flock of chickens. The interesting thing about the Emerson chickens is that they all had tiny leather shoes made for their scratching feet. Ooh, she says. And what manner of humanity might I be cooking for today, she asked. The kind which outfits their pets in the finest of footwear, came a man's voice. At the moment, Annie thought maybe the chicken or the dog that was laying underneath the tree might have spoken to her. But she looked over her shoulder, and whom should she see but a tall man struggling to lead a small calf to the barn. Have you come for the cook's job? Asked the man. I have indeed, sir, answered Annie, falling into step beside him. I've crossed the ocean to cook for a man who won't eat. Or so the advertisement says. Oh, don't trouble yourself over Mr. Emerson, said the man. Mother Nature provides all he needs. Thought Annie. That's an odd answer. Okay. She walked in front of the calf, stuck her finger in the calf's mouth, and gently led the calf directly to the barn. I like a person who can do things, said the man with a smile. Well, I've led many a calf to the barn, but never a philosopher to dinner, said Annie as she left him and walked toward the house. Have yourself a fine day, sir, she said. And he straightened her shawl, stood at the open door, and 3 children were scampering on top of furniture and around the table and over the rug and under the table, chasing kittens in the main room. There was a lady in a beautiful gray dress, and she was teaching a parrot to say, pretty, pretty, pretty. Oh, Come in, said the lady. I am Mrs. Emerson. Oh, I am Annie Burns' mom. Oh, yes, the Irish cook that does so much with so little, said Mrs. Emerson, and she looked pleased. One of the little boys yelled, Papa doesn't eat anymore, shouted the little boy. Now, Mrs. Emerson said to her son, it's not that Papa doesn't eat, it's that he doesn't eat enough to suit me. My husband is concerned with the feeding of the soul, Mrs. Emerson told Annie, and I'm concerned with the feeding of all 6 feet of him. Annie nodded her head, pretending to understand, but she didn't. That is why I advertise for an extraordinary cook, said Mrs. Emerson. It will take one to win his appetite over on this sort of man. Well, Mom, I think I'm a very good cook, but I'm extraordinarily stubborn. And if that'll do, I'd like to take the job. You'll do just fine. So Mrs. Emerson escorted Annie Burns into the study, where at the table, a round table, there was a man writing furiously. You guessed it. It was the same man she had met in the back with the chickens with the shoes on. Why, you're Mr. Emerson, Annie blurted out before she could properly be introduced. I am, he said, and I'm sorry if I led you to believe otherwise. I apologize. I just never imagined I'd be working for a famous philosopher and essayist that's known around the world. And he said, work? Why, thinking is the hardest task in the world, he said with a chuckle. And a moment later, Emerson was called away to play with the children, and Annie stepped closer to the philosopher's desk. She thought, is it true that the man won't cook? I'll see in the morning. She found out that his favorite breakfast was pie and coffee. So she got up extra early, created this lovely, light, fluffy dough, filled it full of fragrant, beautiful apples, popped it in the oven, took it out, and wondered where Mr. Emerson was. It was just dawn. She found him out near the riverbank in the backyard, and he was sitting on a chair looking at the river. Sir, I'll leave your breakfast here. You may want to taste it. It's hot. The coffee's hot. I'll be back to collect the dishes in a bit. In a bit, she came back. Aurora, do you think that Mr. Emerson had eaten the pie and drank the coffee? No, he had not touched them. Annie was furious. This is fine pie, this is fine coffee. And so it went. That night, she made a beautiful roast, all ringed with lovely roasted vegetables. It was delicious. There were buttery mashed potatoes on the side, with the butter dribbling down the sides and the butter in the bowl. He looked at it, had a piece of celery in his hand, and said he was still thinking, not quite hungry. Annie thought she'd heard everything now. What on earth could be? So each night, Annie was writing notes to her mother in Ireland. She explained all these dilemmas with the famous Mr. Emerson. And one week, she got a note back. Annie, notice that I found your childhood cookbook in my things. It's full of magic and mystical things. Maybe this will help you cook what Mr. Emerson wants. Annie opened the little book, and there it was, recipes for mud pies and all sorts of other delicious childhood things. That night, it was cold and windy. She dreamt about cooking these mystery, amazing childhood recipes. Mud pies and grass muffins and sunshine slush. And it inspired her. So a little bit before dawn, she went down to the kitchen. She opened the window wide. The dawn rays of the sun came in and hit the bowl that she was mixing the fruit in to make the pie for breakfast. It was like nothing else she'd ever felt. She was warm all over her body, and the bowl, she thought, started glowing. What on earth is this? But she felt like this pie was going to be special. As usual, she took it out to the stump next to the chair by the river. And Mr. Emerson, looking at it, looked at her and ate the slice of pie and asked for more. Oh, yes, indeed, sir. She scurried inside, got more pie, a big slice this time, huge slice. Put it on a plate, took it right out with the fork. He devoured it down. And ever since then, she tried to mix in the rays of sunshine and the joy that she found in cooking, thinking about nature, and with her heart and her mind truly in nature, the way Mr. Emerson thought. Even with a big pot of chowder, she was mixing the fish, and she was taking the broth, and she was peeling the potatoes for fish chowder. As she opened the lid on the simmering chowder, she felt the sea mist flowing in. And the rest of Annie's cooking career at the Emersons was the very same way. What do you think of that? Is that possible? You think? Well, it ends up, the woman who wrote this story, her name is Judith Byron Schachner, is actually Annie Burns's great-great-granddaughter. And those stories have gone on through their family for years. So as we're listening to the sermon about Mr. Emerson, let's think about Annie Burns and how Emerson changed her life. Shall we sing this song of dedication? Great.
Thank you, Miss Beth. I love that story. I know someone sitting out in the pews whose favorite breakfast is pie and coffee as well. I'll have to make you some pie, dear. Hey, let's take a moment to pause. So this is our time of centering. I'll invite the lights to come down, if that's possible up there, folks. And I'm going to share with you today a Mary Oliver poem, one that I'm sure many, many, many of you know. So as you find your place to sit in your seat and in your body, take a few breaths. Even though our sanctuary seems to be closed off from the environment around us, maybe as your eyes are closed, you can imagine big windows in our sanctuary flung open, feeling the breeze and the sun. Taking a deep breath. Let this be a gift you give yourself, a moment, just like Emerson sitting by the stream, a moment to just be, and to just be in nature. Imagine yourself feeling the wind, nice breeze, smelling the fragrant, full air, and feeling the aliveness of life around you. This is Wild Geese from Mary Oliver. You do not have to be good. You do not have to walk on your knees for 100 miles through the desert, repenting. You only have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. Tell me about your despair, and I will tell you mine. Meanwhile, the world goes on. Meanwhile, the sun and the clear pebbles of the rain are moving across the landscapes, over the prairies, and the deep trees, and in the mountains, and through the rivers. Meanwhile, the wild geese high in the clear blue air are heading home again. Whoever you are, no matter how lonely, the world offers itself to your imagination. It calls you like the wild geese, harsh and exciting, over and over, announcing your place in the family of things. Taking a moment to allow yourself to sit and feel yourself in and amongst the family of things. You are part of the family of all things. As you're ready, feel free to slowly open your eyes
beyond the shadows. We have raised a song of truth to right the wrong. We've awakened in this place the healing sounds of grace. We have sung for peace and pride with voices strong. Together we have raised a call for healing. We have lifted high the psalms of joy and praise. All our music and our art we have given from the heart. In this quest unending we have kept the faith. Love has always been our song. Love has always been the reason we sing. All our hopes and dreams became our music. Love has always been our song. We are building marches on groundless ground. When words were not enough, we raised an awesome sound. We have raised 1,000 hallelujahs. We have sung for those who had no voice. We love our music with every love song. We filled this house with glorious songs. We have raised the testament of freedom. We have broken down the walls of hate and fear. With a message clear and bright, we have sung to the night. We have built a legacy to last the years. Now with unity we sing about the future. For there are words and music still unsung. So faithful to our call, we dedicate our all. We will change the world with voices raised as one. Love will always be our song. Love will always be the reason we sing. In the dreams we share, there's glorious music. Love will always be our song. This is our legacy. This is our destiny. Love will always be our song. Love will be
Hope you guys don't get tired of us clapping for you. Love will always be our song. Okay, so listen. I need to admit something. Here we go. When I was first introduced to Unitarian Universalism, I was only lukewarmly impressed. I mean, sure, I loved the words and the hymnals, not all the tunes so much. And I loved the idea of the 7 principles and the 6 sources, though I thought the list was kind of long. I mean, who can ever remember numbers 3 through 6? Come on. And as I sat in a hushed Unitarian Universalist sanctuary on that first day, I wondered if Unitarian Universalism was too stately for me. Dare I say, too Protestant for me? I mean, sure, I appreciate it that I did not have to believe in God if I did not want to, nor did I have to take Jesus as my personal Savior, and I appreciated the advice to treat everyone with inherent worth and dignity. But the first Unitarian Universalists I met seemed to be really focused on what they didn't believe. They were really proud of their intellectual prowess that led them to reject nonsense. And two, they seemed to be a little bit focused on changing everybody else in the world. Does anybody recognize these people I'm talking about? No, none of you. None of you. These are up in New England. These were the New England Unitarian Universalists. Now, see, I did not have a college degree at the time, and though I loved a good debate on a worldly topic, the truth is that was not why I wandered into a religious community. And since I did not grow up in religion, I had less of a need to declare what I was rejecting. And I felt kind of nervous about my ability to fix the world. Was Unitarian Universalism for me? I thought maybe not. Okay, so not an inspiring sermon from the person you just installed as your minister, is it? Yikes. Can't take it back. But hold on, it does get better. Because then I read an address given in 1838 by a Unitarian minister, and I discovered that there are many ways to be a Unitarian Universalist. The address was delivered to the Divinity College at Harvard University by, you guessed it, Ralph Waldo Emerson. Now, looking at the 9 or so graduating ministers-to-be that day, Emerson, whose father was also a Unitarian minister, he said something to them that when I read it, instantly pulled me right into this faith. Now, I'm going to paraphrase Emerson's words here to save you from this word heap that was 19th century writing, because they usually did like hour-and-a-half sermons. This will not be that. But basically, with their teachers and guests looking on, these young graduates heard this from Emerson. What are you doing? All those books you've read, all that information you've stuffed in your head, if all you do with it is regurgitate it back out to the pews, you are no better than the boorish elders who have come before you and for whom religion is indeed dead. Now, can you imagine the look on the faces of the professors in that room? Yeah. Emerson went on to say, you must instead feel it. You must feel your faith. You must first and foremost have a visceral experience of the divine spark called life. For if you do not, anything you say and anything you do will be nothing but an academic exercise and will do more harm than good to those that sit before you. Now, this is somebody speaking my language. Now, as you can imagine, this little speech of his created quite the stir to the professors, as well as the educated ministers in attendance. And much to Emerson's surprise, the news made the paper the next day, and it went viral in a 19th century kind of way and was all the talk around town. I love a good rebel. As for Emerson himself, it is reported that he had no idea his words would create such a stir. I'm suspicious about that. But in any case, he did go on to write a lot about the reverence and delight in life and how it awakens us to an intuitive sense of what he calls divine laws. He writes this. He says, as a traveler who has lost his way throws his reins on his horse's neck and trusts the instincts of the animal to find his road, so must we do with the divine animal who carries us through the world. So be honest, who knew you had a divine animal carrying you? I knew you were going to raise your hand. Now, although it may seem like Emerson might be suggesting let go and let God in his quote, he actually did not see this divine animal as a God that lived somewhere outside of us, whom we should obey and let guide our lives. Instead, Emerson had a sense that there was this intuitive, natural force that permeates all of life, and that it is through our own intuition that we can connect with this force and learn to trust it to carry us. But let's face it, peeps. As rational beings, we tend not to be too good at surrendering the reins of life to a deeper intuition, right? Mostly we are Western-trained minds, and we tend to be told to hold on tight and don't let go, right? Either that or we're the, I'm not lost, no need to let go of the reins here, got everything under control. Where are my folks who never ask for directions and it's okay to point to your spouse? No need to let go of the reins, I got it under control. And who is guilty of hearing that small murmur of your deep intuition, right? You know that moment? You hear that small murmur of your deep intuition? And you lasso it down and you tie it up and you stick it in the closet, lest it make a mess of your well-organized and well-thought-out life. Heaven help you if that rogue force, undeterred by reason, steers you in directions unknown and causes you to, wait for it, Kathy, have personal growth. Where's my piano? Dun, dun, dun. And yet we all start out pretty attuned to this natural intuitive force, don't we? Look at babies and little kids. They're like non-stop dances of intuitive movement. But sadly, over time, most of us learn to view our intuition with suspicion. We are taught how to be practical, to think things through, and to quote every parent of a teenager, make good choices. But what if Emerson is right? And all that reasonable practicality is actually inhibiting us, at least just a little bit. I know it sounds blasphemous, Unitarians, but don't panic, don't panic. I am not talking about throwing out science or reason altogether. Eric, I'm not. Science is good. But let's follow Emerson's path for just a moment. According to Emerson, intellectualism and over-rationality can actually inhibit the feeling of reverence and delight. If we're just thinking about it too much, we're not experiencing it. And he's saying that it's those states of reverence and delight that actually awaken this intuitive connection to life. And he's saying that when we are intuitively connected to life, that is when the choices we make are most virtuous. Virtuous meaning the most good for the whole, right? For Emerson, the surest path to reverence and delight was simply through nature. In a passage that was found in one of his diaries, Emerson writes this to himself. He says, "Get the soul out of bed, out of her deep habitual sleep. Get out into God's universe, i.e. nature. Get out to a perception of its beauty and hearing its call." I love that line, get the soul out of bed. How many of us have sleepy souls at times who just want to go through life automatically? I want an amen on that. Yeah? Wake up. In his divinity school address, Emerson tells the ministers if they want to see a miracle, don't look towards Jesus. Look at a flower. For there is a miracle of this divine intuitive force right there in every single flower, and it's so true. And not only does nature show us miracles, it shows us how to live, right? Just one example. Let's look at the example of to-do lists. It's so easy to get bogged down in the thought of all the things that must be done. Who's a list maker, right? How many people look at your to-do list in the morning and feel exhausted? How many people's ministers put things on their to-do list and they feel exhausted? Sorry. You haven't done anything yet, but you just feel exhausted looking at that list. It's exhausting because I think in our heads when we look at that list, we kind of think like, oh, I got to do it all right now. And our brains are trying to like process doing it all in that moment. Right? I think we do this when we look at that list of how to change the world. Everybody have your how to change the world to-do list? Right? The things to do. We got to stop the wars, get everyone fed, clean up the environment, start climate change, stop climate change, transform capitalism, end homelessness, help the immigrants, end school to prison pipeline, teach love and end hate and racism and misogyny and homophobia, and the list goes on. The list is exhausting. It's important, but it's exhausting. And I know when I look at that list, it's easy for me to feel like a failure. Like, oh, I didn't get anything done. What did I do about that list today? What did you do about that list today? But here's the thing. That's not how creation works. That's how us human beings work, but that's not how creation works. Nothing gets done all at once. I love watching the unfolding of plants each spring, and I'm pretty sure that in the winter, those naked trees don't sit around and have committee meetings and scheme and stress about designing a leaf, right? My bushes did not worry about all the steps they must go through to have that flower blossom come out. They just simply followed their intuitive life force step by step, one small thing at a time. And then one day that force pushed forth the leaf or the flower, or soon the blueberry. At the core of Emerson's message is a question I think it's wise for us to ponder. And it's this question: if the force of life guides the growth of the flower and the leaf, why would it not guide our growth as well? Why do we think we are so outside of the flow of nature that somehow we are different? That unlike all other living things that trust nature's flow, we should be suspicious of that intuitive force in our lives. Why do we feel so stressed when we don't get it all done, as if getting it all done was even possible? I'm going to invite you to take a moment and think of a thing in your life that you have had an intuitive urge toward, but which you suspiciously held back from, right? There was that thing, right? What would it look like for you to trust your intuition in that situation? And maybe you had a situation where you followed your intuition. What did it look like? What did it feel like when you said yes to that intuition? I wonder if there's things that you are desperately trying to force into being all at once. Everybody raise your hand. Me. What keeps you from seeing success in just the little incremental steps and letting that be enough? Over this past month, Ann Mason and a handful of Emersonians organized and hosted a 4-part series exploring the hard history of slavery in this country. It was incredible and attended online and in person by over 70 participants, many from outside the congregation. Did it end racism in America? Really? You put all that work in, and it didn't end racism in America? Damn. Did it stop the governor from signing those bills designed to alter what can be taught in Georgia schools? No, it didn't do that either. So if it didn't fix anything, was it worth it? Yes. Right? Without a doubt. Dozens of seeds were planted this month, the fruits of which can only begin to be known. But without a doubt, they contained the intuitive spark of those that worked on creating that course. I saw their dedication as they said, yes, this is what we're going to offer, and they worked hard to bring that together and offer it. I think of this Emerson Unitarian Universalist congregation. Now, Marjorie and Fred aren't here to affirm this, but Ed Miller is here, so correct me if I'm wrong, Ed. But perhaps one day, Marjorie and Fred and Ed Miller and the Fullers and the Taxes and a handful of others who were here and founding members, perhaps one day they sat around a chalice and said, okay, let's plan this thing out. We're going to start here in this bank, and then we're going to move to this little yellow church, and then we're going to do that for a couple years, and then we're going to move to Canton Road. And then in 39 years, there's going to be a pandemic, and we're going to install our third called minister. Is that what you guys did, Ed? You sure? I mean, probably not. My guess is that this group of souls responded to some intuitive call inside them, found themselves together in that bank, and then step by step, year by year, decision by decision, new member by new member, trusted the energy that called them together in the first place and guided them to unfold this community. And here we all are. Who could have imagined it? We are the results of intuitive sparks, which met other intuitive sparks, which added to the creation. And I do want to say that sometimes Ralph Waldo Emerson is misinterpreted as being self-centered with all this intuition talk. But I don't read him this way at all, and I want to clarify for him. I want to defend the man. Because I think Emerson implores us to get intuitively connected precisely so we can stop feeling so isolated and disconnected from each other, because each of us has a divine spark that connects to all other divine sparks. Once connected to our own source, and that's by whatever name. If you don't like the name divine spark, just call it life, right? Pretty sure, even though a few of you are falling asleep, most of us are alive in this room, right? I'm not going to call any names out. It's fine. Take a nap. But once connected to our own source, by whatever name you prefer, we awaken our own intuition, and that can help move us into the world in ways that dance with all of creation. Because how could we harm the environment when we know to be part of it in our own being, right? How could we harm someone else if we feel intimately connected to each and every person? There's this story that Joseph Campbell recounts of being at a religious conference and overhearing another American delegate, a social philosopher from New York. And this guy was saying to a Shinto priest, he said, well, we've now been to a good many ceremonies and have seen quite a few of your shrines, but I don't get your ideology. I don't get your theology. And the Japanese man paused, and as though in deep thought, and then he slowly shook his head and he said, I don't think we have an ideology. I don't think we have a theology. We just dance. I like that visual. My friends, there are many ways to be Unitarian Universalists. Honoring the intellect and the ways of science are definitely one. But don't forget, we are also Emersonians. We must feel our way into this faith. We don't need to have it all figured out or have a whole bunch of well-worded phrases to declare our values. We don't need to know how it's all going to turn out. We just need to awaken. As Emersonians, we are called to practice letting go of the reins and allowing the divine intuition to dance in our lives. And I am very sure if we do, we will indeed see many miracles unfold. And as Unitarian Universalists, I don't want to miss that. Amen. Blessed be. Let's sing. Our closing hymn is in the teal hymnal. It is some number. It is 1028. It is Fire of Commitment. It's one of my favorites. That's the teal hymnal. Please rise as you're able and body your spirit, and let's sing it out. I want to close with these words from Ralph Waldo Emerson. Dear friends here have given me this as a gift on my installation, and I thought it was so appropriate here. Thank you, George and Melanie. It says, "Many eyes go through the meadow, but few see the flowers in it." So may you go forth and always see the flowers in your many meadows of your life. Hold tight. I think it's going to have some announcements for us, and we're going to extinguish a chalice. Did I forget something? Am I out of order?
Yes, you're out of But I love you. And I love you. That's much better now. Okay. One way we seek to live ethical lives is by partnering with other organizations who work to bring love, kindness, and justice to the world. We encourage our members and friends to support their work financially as we share our weekly collection, and also by engaging in direct action. Our partner this week is the Must Summer Lunch Program. The Must Summer Lunch Program is Must Ministries will continue the time-honored tradition of feeding thousands of kids in the metro Atlanta area all summer. Must's goal is to provide breakfast and lunch to at least 6,000 children for 9 weeks. An estimated 540,000 meals will be distributed across the counties of Cobb, Cherokee, Douglas, Fulton, Paulding, and Gwinnett. Wow, that's a needed thing. We also want to acknowledge today our must food drop-off. Every Wednesday, Joe Tomachek and Susan Tomachek, they're out in front, and they have a barrel. I got to tell you, that this year we've had 35 barrels of food that have been picked up. Congratulations to Emerson for that. In addition to financially supporting this whole work of the summer lunch program, we need to have more food brought into the barrels and that kind of a thing. So that's where you can take some action, along with making a financial donation today supporting that group. A link to ways to give is posted in the chat. And for those in the sanctuary, as the basket is passed, please feel free to offer a donation. Take a card if you like. And that card describes the many ways that you can make donations here at Emerson. All donations, unless otherwise specified, are shared equally. And while the baskets are being passed, let me just tell you about that in any way that I can ask you to support this important work. Thank you. We hope you have been nourished in heart and mind by our worship today. If you would like more information about Unitarian Universalism or about participation here at Emerson, please stop by our welcome table in the front entry where Hagee is there this morning ready to meet you and give you some information about Emerson and Unitarian Universalism. As our chalice is extinguished, please join me in the final words. They are posted in the chat and in the order of service. We extinguish this chalice, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry into hearts and out into the world as we are together again. Now, just a few announcements. Right after our service today, all the members of Emerson are asked to join us right out in front of the building for our annual photo on this Founders Day. And so I think we're all prepared out there, so we want to make sure that everybody goes out for that. After that, we'll have refreshments in the fellowship hall, and outside, we're going to have refreshments outside. Is there going to be more sangria? I'm just saying, I think we should have sangria the first Sunday, second Sunday, third Sunday, and fourth Sunday. I'm just saying. What do you think? Okay? Amen. Oh, amen. Boy, that sangria was something else. And everybody in the photo. Oh, everybody. Millie, you got something to say? What's that?
How we tell everybody how, they get to do it.
Okay.
I think everybody can hear me.
Yes.
All right, if you are visiting the church, please come and have a photograph made with us. We'll never And then I know this next roll I want to we can all get out. And don't, just leave everything here and come, and it will take only a minute or two, I promise. And it will be wonderful to look back and see all how wonderful we look. Pictures. Okay. Are you with me?
Yes. Thank you, Millie. All right, and just a couple of other announcements. At 11:15, we will have our adult religious exploration, and I do want to mention we'll have service reflections right here in the sanctuary with none other than Reverend Deborah Bennett. In room 126, we're going to have the power of labyrinths. Join Chris Beam as she teaches us the power of labyrinths, including how to draw your own. That's really important because I believe next Sunday we're going to be doing some labyrinths. Am I right, Chris? Okay, so join Chris out up in 120 or out in 126. Also, we have the May Echo Challenge, and that was with the Gipple. That's our energy challenge each month. That's in 103, so join us there. And then check your order of service because there's a lot more stuff going on. And now, our service is now concluded, but our connection has only just begun. And in the words of Deborah Bennett,
Go now in peace.
thank you. Everybody have a warm, welcome day.